Editor of the political publication CapX, and that's Alys Denby, friend of the show. Good to see you again, Alys.
Good to be back.
Alys, we were talking about the cabinet, we're talking about who's in it, what she has assembled there. Is that a cabinet to win an election?
Well, I think the key thing that she's got to do, she's only got 2 years, so she needs to deliver. And I think she's decided to put people around her who are going to share her vision, who are going to force through her agenda above perhaps party loyalty, above trying to bring in some more Sunakites and make a bigger offer. She might put some of those people in the lower ministerial ranks, but really what she's done here is put people around her who are going to force through her agenda. And I think if she's got any chance of winning in 2024, she's going to need to have something to show for these 2 years, and I think that was the right decision.
So, is that the most right-wing cabinet we've had in a while?
Yeah, these are certainly people. I mean, if you look at the backgrounds of Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng back in the day, wrote this book, Britannia Unchained, about sort of free markets and shrinking the state. I think her chief policy advisor has also written a book about how to, roll back the state. So yeah, I think this is a cabinet committed to free market ideas.
Mm-hmm. One of the criticisms has been in her cabinet. She has filled it with her supporters, and one of the real challenges she's going to have is reuniting the Conservative Party, and she hasn't got any of the other side in that loyal team. Do you think that's going to be difficult then to say we are working as one when she's only really picked one side to work alongside her?
I think it's a risk. As you say, her victory, her margin of victory wasn't as big as many expected. Sunak had a lot more MPs on his side. So I think it's a risk, but I think the gamble that she's taken is that she needs to deliver by 2024. She doesn't have a long time to do it.
She hasn't got time for in-house fighting.
Exactly. And the Tory party, if there's one thing that unites them, it's an election, it's winning an election. And there's some key polling that's been done by the Centre for Policy Studies that shows that the majority, the route to an election is no longer what we might have used to have called the just about managing. It's the working classes who are leaving the party in their droves. These are the people who are going to suffer the most in the immediate future. I think that's why we're going to see this big promise on energy pledges, but also a kind of longer-term agenda around fairness and patriotism and people with, and it's not about redistribution. This is what she was talking about in her leadership campaign. It's about fairness.
When it comes to the polling, do you think the public think 2024 we could re-elect the Conservatives?
I think that very much depends on what happens this winter. I mean, people are going to feel poorer, they're going to feel pain, and by 2024 they need to have something to show that their lives are going to be better in the future. So it really depends on what she can do, and she doesn't have long to do it.
Well, all of which depends on, I suppose, Ukraine and Russia. She's made a statement. Her first call was not to the USA, not to President Biden, but to President Zelensky. She has accepted his offer of going to visit the country as well. All very well and good and noble, and a lot of people will say the right thing, but a lot of people will also say, really, you're prolonging our hurt as well. You're antagonising the Russians, and they ain't going to play ball with us in terms of energy while you keep supporting Ukraine.
I mean, this is one of the biggest, most difficult questions in politics at the moment, but I think, Liz Truss's view is that there's no security at home without security abroad. And that ultimately, if you don't stand up to bullies, if you don't defend your democratic values, then everyone loses.
A real in-tray she's got this morning for Prime Minister's questions is going to be challenging. One of the other criticisms of her is her delivery. Her presentation style is quite awkward at times. And, Eamon knows very well from interviewing her on this programme what she can be like. Prime Minister's questions, head-to-head against Keir Starmer. How do you think she's going to fare?
It's not as though Keir Starmer's a kind of massive charisma factory. And I feel like she's underestimated in terms of her delivery. Yes, it comes across as awkward, but look how successful she was during this leadership campaign. Look how she kind of grew in the debates and learned. And ultimately, I think people will care more about what she can do than how she presents herself.
Yeah, and also I think there's a difference between how you deliver something in terms of a speech and how you debate. And it'd be interesting. Today we'll be looking at the debating factor, which may be a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, absolutely. And we all know that Keir Starmer is very good at the kind of forensic questioning. He's on top of the detail. But so is Liz Truss. I mean, one of Boris Johnson's weaknesses against Keir Starmer was bluster and not being on top of the brief. And Liz Truss is exactly the opposite of that in a way.